What's up, everyone? We are back with picks on every single NBA game for Saturday, March 9th. We're going to dive in here and find some solid winning plays. These picks, as always, are brought to you by StumpTheSpread.com. Click the link in the description to see our best bets across all major sports. Subscribe and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our daily videos, and hit that thumbs up button so we can grow the community here. Ask me anything you want about any game today. I read and respond to every single comment, and I'll give you the best advice I've got on anything you want to ask. Now let's dive into our first game of the day, Chicago versus the LA Clippers. The Bulls have now won 3 straight coming into this game. They've taken down the Kings, the Jazz, and the Warriors. They won those last 2 games on the road. Sure, the Golden State game came with Steph Curry going out with an ankle injury, so that's not the biggest win in the world, but Chicago has been playing very well lately. They're 18-14 against the spread on the road. Right now, Chicago is pretty much having a clean injury report, so that's pretty impressive, especially at this point in the season. Against the Warriors, we saw DeMar DeRozan come up clutch, as he seemingly always does. He went off for 33 points. Vujacic had a great game, one of his best games this season, actually coming away with 33 points of his own. This squad just really played well up and down the roster. The bench wasn't like incredible, but they were pretty good. The Bulls are pretty much locked into the 9th seed in the East, so they don't have a whole crazy amount to play for right now. They definitely want to stay above the Atlanta Hawks, so they've got a 2-game cushion there. It just seems like the Bulls are determined to play well right now. LA has had a little bit of a hard time coming off the All-Star break. They're 3-3 in their last 6. They have won 2 of their last 3 with a weird 1-point super low scoring win over the Timberwolves. Then they lost at Milwaukee, which isn't a great look, and then they won a kind of close one at Houston. The Clippers are banged up right now. That's their biggest problem. Harden is questionable for this game with a shoulder issue. Paul George is questionable for this game with a knee issue, and Kawhi is questionable with a groin problem. You're going to want to watch the injury report for this game very carefully before making any bets. Right now, we have no indication whether or not either one of those 3 are going to play. They could all play. None of them can play. We really don't know. It's very much up in the air right now. The Clippers are 15-14 against the spread at home. That's a pretty okay number, but it's not a good enough trend that we're really going to be banking on that. It's not nearly as good as Chicago's 18-14 against the spread on the road mark. Westbrook just had surgery on his broken hand, so he's going to be out for a little bit. Back in 2014, Westbrook came back 4 weeks after fracturing his right hand, so there's some hope that he could make a quick return, but without all of their big name players right now, or with at least all of them being banged up, things aren't looking that bright for the Clippers, who only a few weeks ago were being hailed as maybe the best team in the Western Conference. In this game, we're looking at Chicago. They're getting 9.5 points. We love Chicago in this one. The Bulls are playing really well right now. They're not like playing on no rest or anything like that. They're 18-14 against the spread on the road. Chicago and the points, that might be one of our biggest plays of the day. Next up, we're looking at Brooklyn versus Charlotte. Brooklyn comes into this game fresh off of a loss at the Detroit Pistons. The Nets might be about to get a little bit healthier right now. Cam Thomas is probable for this game with his ankle/foot issue basically cleared up. Cam Johnson is going to be out though with his ankle injury, and Ben Simmons was just declared out for the year. We don't really care too much about that. Ben Simmons doesn't really matter. He hasn't mattered in a long time. I recently watched a video which said treat the game well and it will treat you well. I feel like Ben Simmons has not treated the game well, and man, it is really kicking him in the teeth. In that loss to the Pistons, we did not see the Nets play particularly well. Schroeder absolutely went off for 31 points, but other than him, there weren't a lot of bright spots. Lonnie Walker continues to put up points off the bench, so that's a great development for his career. They didn't really have any answers for Ivy and Cunningham, though, so this game did not work out for Brooklyn at all. They took a 6-point loss against one of the worst teams in the NBA. The Nets are only 10-18 against the spread on the road. That's a pretty disturbing number. Charlotte, on the other hand, they have not been having a great time either. They've now lost 6 in a row. They just lost at Washington by 12 to a different one of the worst teams in the NBA. Charlotte is 13-18 against the spread at home. They are 7-4 against the spread though on no rest. Trey Mann is out with a groin injury. Right now, we just don't have too much positive to say about the Hornets. I mean, look at their record, look at what they're doing. They're not really giving great effort on a nightly basis. They're losing to some of the worst teams in the entire NBA. Charlotte's getting 5.5 points in this game. Guys, please don't force me to bet this one. I really don't want to. Maybe Cam Thomas being back makes me lean towards Brooklyn. I think if you're forcing me to bet this game, I'll take the over. It's 212 total, so I think maybe we would slightly bet the over, but just in general, this is a game I'm going to be avoiding, not one that I like very much. Both these teams are so bad, there's really not a lot to lean on in either one, so this is going to be a pass most of the time for me. Next up, we've got the Dallas Mavericks headed to Detroit to take on the Pistons. Luka is playing absolutely out of their minds. Dallas got a desperately needed win over the Miami Heat, 114-108. That was a very close game, really came down to the wire. Both teams played well at different points. Derek Lively's going to be out in this one for Dallas. Luka is listed as questionable with his ankle/elbow situations that he has going on. I think we see him play in this game though. He's been very durable. Dallas is 18-11 against the spread on the road. That's a pretty solid number, but they haven't been playing that great overall. That win over Miami snapped a 3-game losing streak. They even lost to the 76ers in there, so that's a terrible loss. The Pistons come into this game fresh off of a rare win. They took down the Brooklyn Nets like we were just talking about. Detroit's actually been like trying a little bit harder. It feels like they've been making some positive strides since a little bit before the All-Star break. This team is not a great one. They're 14 and 15 and 1 against the spread at home. Not a terrible number against the spread, but nothing great. Quentin Grimes is doubtful with his knee issue, so we're probably not going to see him in this game. But with Ivy and Cunningham both likely to play, Detroit really has their two best options available to them. The Pistons are getting 8.5 points at home. I think we slightly lean towards the Pistons and the points in this one at home, but this isn't going to be a big bet for me. This is only going to be a small lean. Dallas, a little bit banged up right now. They just won a very tough game. Detroit is not a good team. This could kind of be a look ahead spot. They're going to Chicago, then they're playing the Warriors and the Thunder and the Denver Nuggets, so maybe they're kind of looking past this game. Give me Detroit and the points is a super small lean in this one. Next up, we get the marquee game of the night. We see the Boston Celtics headed to Phoenix to take on the Suns. Boston has now lost 2 straight. They lost a heartbreaker at Cleveland, and then they lost a very tough game at Denver. That loss at Denver has everybody questioning whether the Nuggets and Jason Tatum have what it takes to even compete for a championship. I'm even seeing people saying that the Milwaukee Bucks are the better team, or that we're going to see somebody else come out of the East. All of a sudden, with that loss against the best team in the West, Boston is suddenly taking all kinds of shots. Everybody suddenly thinks they're terrible. I don't think that's the case. I think this is a little bit of an overreaction in a game where the Celtics just didn't really have it outside of Jaylen Brown. Brown was going absolutely bonkers in that game. He put up 41 points. It was pretty concerning to see almost no production coming from the Celtics bench, but when you're playing on the road in a super hostile environment like Denver, that's going to happen relatively often. Bench players tend to play better when they're playing at home in a much bigger way than starters tend to. Jaylen Brown is listed as questionable for this game with his pelvis issue. Jason Tatum is listed as probable with an ankle issue. I think we see both of them play in this game. The Suns come into this game fresh off back-to-back wins. They won at Denver, and they also beat the Toronto Raptors by 7. Injuries have been a big problem for Phoenix, but Booker is questionable with his ankle. He's been upgraded to questionable, so I think there's a long shot that he plays in this game, but I think there's a very good chance that he actually does not end up playing in this game. Regardless, though, it's going to be his first game back, so you don't really know what you'll see from him. Phoenix has been a little bit all over the place this season. They've been all over the place with injuries all season long, it feels like. Sure, they're getting a little bit healthier, but a big problem for Phoenix has been their play on their home court. Phoenix is only 12, 21, and 1 against the spread at home. That's a near league worst mark. 2 out of their next 3 games are against Boston, so it's going to be really interesting to see how they do in these games. Some people might have this pegged as a potential finals matchup. I don't really see any way that Phoenix gets to the NBA Finals, but they do have Booker and Kevin Durant, so it's not impossible that they make a deep run. But regardless, looking at the spread on this game, we see that Phoenix is getting 3.5 points at home. We are definitely taking Boston. This is going to be our biggest bet of the day, minus 3.5. This is a huge bounce back spot for the Celtics. They have a lot to prove here. They've got all the tools to defend Durant and Booker and slow down Bradley Beal. I think that we see Boston come out with a vengeance in this game. As long as they shoot the ball even decent, I think they get a comfortable win and cover. This could even be a blowout if we see Booker not play, so give me Boston in this one. It's my favorite play of the day. Next up, we're looking at a matchup between San Antonio and Golden State that would have been a lot more exciting if it happened a couple of weeks ago. San Antonio comes into this game fresh off of a loss to the Kings. It was a very close, very competitive loss at Sacramento. They played really well, even without Wembanyama playing. He's going to be sidelined through the weekend. We will not see him until the Warriors game on Monday. It sounds like at the earliest. In that game against the Kings, we saw Vassell really go off. He scored 30 points. We saw Johnson and Bram score 20 plus each coming off the bench. So that's pretty crazy. Maybe some of these guys need to be getting more looks. Maybe Pop is intentionally tanking. Who really knows what's going on in San Antonio right now? They have been decent against the spread on the road. They're 17 and 18 against the spread when playing away from home. So that's a pretty decent mark. And they're getting a lot of points in this game. San Antonio's plus 13.5. And we're going to see all those bench guys get a lot of run again. It's really hard to determine what San Antonio is going to be doing on a nightly basis. Like, they play Sacramento super close, but at Houston, they lost by 13. So we don't really have a great handle on what's going on with them right now. The Warriors are in a very interesting and a little bit scary spot. It's nice for them that they're pretty much already locked into the 10 seed. They've got a 5.5 game cushion over the Utah Jazz. So even if Steph is out for a while, they're going to be fine. It looks like there's no structural damage showing up on the MRI for his ankle, so they're hoping he won't be missing too much time. We also see Trace Jackson Davis is questionable with his ankle issue, so he may or may not be playing in this game. Golden State's going to have to lean a lot on ancient Chris Paul to run the offense and get things going in the right direction. We're going to need Clay to have some hot scoring going on. The Warriors are only 14, 18, and 1 against the spread at home. San Antonio is getting 13.5 points in this game. game. It's not going to be my biggest bet of the day, but we're definitely on San Antonio and the points on the road in this one. Sure, we could see Clay get hot or something like, or maybe Wiggins have a big game or something like that. But regardless, I think we see San Antonio keep this relatively close. They're playing pretty hard. Some guys that aren't used to getting minutes are getting minutes, and they're playing with a lot of effort. So give me San Antonio plus 13.5 on the road in this one. Looking at the Utah Jazz heading to the Denver Nuggets, Utah comes in this game. They're floundering. They're having a hard time. They lost 4 out of their last 5. They're banged up right now. We see Markkanen out with his quad injury. Taylor Hendricks is out with a toe injury, and Keontae George is probable. He's coming back from an illness, so I think we definitely see him playing this game. The Jazz are only 13, 18, and 1 against the spread on the road. Not a great mark. They were the best team in the league against the spread at home for a while, but that fell off pretty quickly. The Jazz are not going to be making any sort of miracle run this season. Things looked up there a little bit before the midway mark, but they took a nosedive straight back down. Utah is not having a good time. They're going to be tanking things out for the rest of the season, trying to improve their draft stock. Could be an interesting young team coming up in the future, but not right now. The Denver Nuggets come into this game fresh off that big win over Boston. Denver is comfortably looking like the best team in the Western Conference, at least to me, and I think pretty much the public at large. The Nuggets are only 15, 15, and 1 against the spread at home. We see Jokic listed as probable. He's got an arm contusion. That poor guy, every game it looks like he got attacked by a bear. Like both of his shoulders are all clawed up, and you can see all the bruising and stuff, but he just keeps grinding out incredible numbers night after night. He played great against Boston. It feels like no matter what anybody throws at him, he's putting up great numbers. He scored 32 points despite not attempting a single three-point shot. He had 12 rebounds, 11 assists, just doing everything you could possibly ask him out on a basketball court. In this game, we're looking at Denver as 12.5-point favorites at home. That seems like a lot of points. The Jazz are banged up. They haven't really been keeping games close against the good teams. They did stay attached at Miami, but they got blown out by the Lakers. They got blown out once by Golden State and kept one game close against Golden State recently. It's hard to tell. This isn't going to be a game that I'm going to be on in a big way. It's really difficult to know what effort level you're going to get from the Nuggets. Like, are they really going to be trying to blow out Utah on this one? The over-under is currently at 232.5. I think we kind of like the over in this game, assuming Keontae George does play. Denver's going to put up some points, and their bench is capable of scoring points, and Utah's going to score some points. I don't think they'll have any answers for Jokic or Jamal Murray, so maybe we see a slightly competitive game. So if you really want to bet this game, maybe sprinkle a little bit on the over, maybe sprinkle a little bit on Utah and the points, but this is one I'm going to be staying away from in general. I don't really know what to expect from either team in this matchup. In our last game on this slate, we're looking at Toronto versus Portland. Toronto comes into this game fresh off back-to-back losses. They lost to the Pelicans in a huge blowout, then they lost in a close one at Phoenix. Toronto hasn't really been playing that great. They've been up and down. They're kind of banged up right now. Bruce Brown's going to be out with a knee issue. We saw Gary Trent Jr. really play well against the Suns. He was one of the bigger reasons they kept that game close. The Raptors bench actually didn't look terrible, but just in general, this has been a down season for the Raptors. They were sellers at the trade deadline. They definitely got younger though, so I guess we can expect to see some good things from them in the future, but not right now. Jakob Poeltl is out indefinitely, so not really the best time in the world to be a Toronto Raptors fan. Portland comes into this game. They have not been playing great either. They're very banged up. This squad is decimated with injuries. They're only 12 and 18 against spread at home. They are 8 and 2 against the spread on no rest, and they are playing right now against the Houston Rockets. So I guess the Portland on no rest angle is very live. They are a league best in that category. We see Scoot out with his thigh injury, Brogdon out with his elbow, Jeremy Grant out with his hamstring, and Ayton out with his hand issue. So just in general, this squad is decimated with injuries. Guys, this is not a game I'm going to be betting. If I do put money on it, it's going to be Toronto on the road in this one. They're decent on the road, going 16, 14, and 1 against the spread. It's basically a pick 'em game at this point, but my pick is going to be to not be anywhere near this game. We've got some solid plays earlier in the day, so those are going to be popping up on the screen in just a second, and we're going to ride with those. That's all of our NBA games for today. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment below about anything on these NBA games, and check out our NCAA basketball video for our picks over there. Hit that thumbs up button and subscribe if you like what we're doing here. We will see you guys tomorrow for more NBA and college basketball action.